what all Leaf fans are most interested in. Okay, well, what's the roster going to look like? And I know you guys have talked a little bit, and the market is, kind of focused on the core four, and is it possible to roll it back? It isn't, because I just don't think naturally it's going to happen. It's just not. I mean, Mitch Marner is going to go to free agency. The Toronto Maple Leafs are going to try and reinvest that money. So really, when you're looking at core four, not to rip the scab here, but you're probably talking about one player, and that's John Tavares, who's a pending UFA. Because if you're talking about, say, the idea of throwing Morgan Riley into a trade scenario, well, he's got a no-move clause. So there's still lots of complications. But the direction, the want of the coaching staff, of management, is for this team to be different, to be heavier, to be grittier, all those great things. I think I've got a pretty good grasp on what the pool of players available looks like, and I'm not sure where they're getting those players. I'm not. I mean, you can come up with trade speculation and this player, why he fits here and all of that, but you also have to have the trade assets to make it work, and that's where it gets a little bit tight, I think, in Toronto.
Darren, as much as I'd like to see some different players, because I don't really want to sit late nights with you and do the same panel year after year after year, but is it like a done deal? It seems like it's basically done deal with John Tavares is going to be returning. They're just sorting out the numbers. Would you be comfortable saying that?
Not done deal, but a strong appetite from both sides to get it done. And the challenge that I think most people have is, okay, that's fine. Everybody has a healthy respect for Tavares and 38 goals that he scored and what he is as a player, turning 35 in September and all of that. But the numbers matter, because anything that you're investing in Tavares has to come out of the pie, right? And what sort of dollars are we talking about here? We know what he made, and that was $11 million flat. We know that he's not going to make anywhere near that. See, I get less bothered, and people get wound up in, okay, well, what is the term, and how important is the term? The term, if I were a Leafs fan, wouldn't matter to me at all for the next 2 years, because I think that there should be comfort in believing that John Tavares is going to be a contributing player for the next 2 years. And so if you're Brad Treliving, not that you're just spending willy-nilly here, but I always use a Chris Tanev contract as my Exhibit A. Do you think the Maple Leafs wanted to throw that term at Tanev? No, obviously they didn't, but they knew that they needed that type of player, the history, the character of Tanev, and so you overspend on term just because for the next couple of years, if you're going to win the Stanley Cup, he's going to be a big part of it. And I think that does apply to Tavares at least for the next 2 years. So why sweat it if it's a 4-year deal? Who cares? I mean, if the team doesn't do well in the next 2 years, it's probably a different management group that's making those decisions anyway. So let them worry about it.
So, Dregs, in the press conference tomorrow, obviously it's Brad Treliving addressing, but do you suspect that Keith Pelly would be there, and do you suspect that if he speaks that then maybe he would lay out the chain of command, how he envisions the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to be run this season? Or do you feel like you got that answer with Keith Pelly talking, earlier in the week?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much more Keith Pelly can provide, and that's not knowing. I'm not saying that he isn't going to be there, and I don't know that he isn't going to be sitting beside Brad Treliving. They're in pro scouting meetings, but again, that doesn't really involve Pelly. It more involves Brad Treliving and Craig Berube. I do wonder if the head coach is going to be there, because without getting into specifics, because we don't really know them, and I don't know that they've officially sorted it all out. What we do know from what Keith Pelly said is that Craig Berube has a different role. Of course, yeah, he's head coach. He makes the decisions in terms of what's happening in game and all of that. But he's got a louder voice if he wants it. But he also has a healthy respect, I know this, for Brad Treliving and management of the Toronto Maple Leafs and the decisions that need to be made, that are going to be made. It just sounds like the conversation that he had with Keith Pelly while Brad Treliving was in Calgary, attending to his daughter's graduation, was about, okay, well, Brendan Shanahan is now gone. We're not replacing the president's role. I need you two guys to mostly handle everything under the label of hockey operations. And they're more than willing to do that. But I still think that there's some wrinkles in this process that do need to be ironed out.
With Darren Dreger, our TSN Hockey Insider. So I feel like we're going to ask this question a lot over the next month. You just said that Marner is going to free agency. Does that mean? Do you think they have told the Leafs? Do you think they have to tell the Leafs anything? Do you think there'll be any conversations between now and July 1st, or is Brad Treliving in the Maple Leafs? Do they get the message and they're like, all right,
yeah,
all good, man. Like, good luck. We'll see you later. Like, how does their relationship work in the next month?
I don't think that it'd be that cut and dry, Brian. I mean, we're in May, quickly coming to the end of May here, and July 1st isn't that far away. I don't think that the messaging from the Marner camp really would change from what they've already heard, right? There's been some market speculation. Well, could they trade Marner's rights? And would he be interested if it was going to the right fit in pursuing that? Because in that case, it'd be a sign and trade, and he'd get the 8th year. And I don't think that motivates the Marner side too much. I think that when you've gone through everything that group has gone through, and by group I'm talking about everyone, including the Maple Leafs, and you're this close to July 1st, why wouldn't you stay on the script? And the script dating back to this past off season was that, hey, focus is going to be on hockey. Mitch is going to try and help this team win, which he did in the regular season, and collectively they just weren't able to beat the defending Stanley Cup champs. Okay, that part is over. Now you get to July 1st, and we know that the market is going to be vast, and it is going to be multiple teams with expressions of considerable interest. It's not going to be a problem finding a huge amount of money for Mitch Marner. His challenge is going to be, okay, well, is there a better fit available to me and my family where I'm getting the money and I have an opportunity to contend for a Stanley Cup? I think there will be. The teams that have been speculated on, ranging from the possibility of Florida to Vegas, go down the list. I mean, I can't dispute that. Why wouldn't those teams have interest? We can look at the financial challenges of making that work among that group. But the plan all along was to see what the open market presents. And then, hey, if Brad Treliving and the Toronto Maple Leafs are still in it at that point, of course, Marner is going to listen. It's just, joked about this a couple of minutes ago, not wanting to sit on the panel a year from now and do this.